Aren't these orchids just so lovely? With our old friend, Lori Reinberger from the Oregon Orchid Society, and she's going to give us some tips of what we can do with our own orchids at home. But first, we have to ask you, so how many orchids in your collection these days?
I have about 5,000 orchids currently.
Wow. But we can still have a couple in our home.
Absolutely. Let's talk about it. Let's teach people how to work on this.
Definitely.
And March and April is specifically what I want to talk about right today.
All right.
And so I really want to go in with and show these new orchids that we have here, this Phalaenopsis, 3 different kinds of Phalaenopsis.
Beautiful.
And you'll notice that they're starting to bloom now. This time of year is about when they start to come up. So they've been kind of sleepy.
Okay.
So we're going to wake them up with a little bit more water and a little bit more fertilizer.
Perfect.
And then we're going to start to notice little things like if the spikes are starting to come up, I want to see you start to stake them.
All right. Why is that important?
Well, it's important for several different reasons. And I'm just going to show you briefly. You just take a stake like that. And if you want to get one of these little clips on there.
Like a little butterfly.
Yeah, and just post it on there like that, and that'll hold it up. Now, what will that do? That puts it where the light is, and then you want to leave it there. You don't want to twist it, you don't want to turn it, because when you do that, if you move this over here, then it's going to reach for the light. And if you move it over here, and then it's going to get all twisted. And people say, why are my flowers so twisted?
Right.
Well, that's a big reason why they do.
And you want to show nice and straight.
Absolutely. So stake it. It also provides stability for it, and it'll stand up, and it'll reach for the light, and it'll just be beautiful.
And then what is this one?
So this is a Cattleya.
All right.
And again, this time of year is a really good time. They're just starting to grow new growth. And actually, it's a good time to repot these in April. And into May, you can repot these. So the blooms are starting to come on Phalaenopsis, on Oncidiums, and I have an Oncidium here as well. And this one here is another good example. It's starting to come into bud, and we want to stake it.
Perfect.
And that way it'll be positioned nicely for the sun to hit it.
All right, and then what else is going on for this month for it?
Well, we're also going to do protecting your plants from sunlight. So as the sunlight starts to get brighter, we need to move them a little bit further away from the window. So you can put a shade up. If you've got morning sun, you can put a shade up, or if you've got afternoon sun and it's beating down, or move them a foot or so back from the windows. And that way then they won't be so susceptible to sunburn.
Because really where they live in the wild, most of them live under the forest canopy.
Correct.
So they're not out in the sunshine.
Correct. You also need to carefully monitor the temperature and the light and the humidity and the air circulation, which of course are the big main things for orchids. So you want to make sure that they're not in a place that's too hot for them or too cold for them, because as the buds come, if you have a door and it's cold in the morning, it could just come right in there and whip cold air on there, and then that would create bud blasts.
Oh, definitely.
And they would fall off. So don't move them once they get in their little position. And then you need to inspect your orchids for any insects this time of year. So there could be scale, or they could be mealybug on there. And it's really important that you lift underneath the leaf.
Oh, they hide, don't
and
they?
check just to make sure there's nothing underneath and hiding and inside the crevices.
And how can we, if we do have a problem, what do we use?
Well, I use a soap, or I use an alcohol and soap mixture, and put that on there with just a little bit of a cotton ball and take it right off and remove it that way.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
So we don't have to use harsh chemicals. It's just really easy to use other things.
And you can make your own.
Ah, that
if
is
you want
nice.
to. And then, of course, as I mentioned, it's a good time to repot. So it's going to have to start going and doing that. Orchids like to be repotted about once a year. So it's a good time now when we start to see a little new growth. Just be real careful not to break off any new growth. So it's also important to check out the current orchid shows in your area. And the Oregon Orchid Society happens to have a show coming up.
And I know they have classes, so really repotting, everybody's always nervous about repotting or doing things, and there's actually a class at the show.
There's going to be a class on Saturday and Sunday, as well as Orchids 101. So bring your questions. There'll be lots of experts there. There'll be a judging show and lots of lovely flowers on display, as well as orchids that you can buy, and more real unusual orchids.
And that's always a fun part, because sometimes you get some ones that are very unusual, they're very rare, and then to talk to you all, because you get all that information that you just don't want to get from the internet. It's nice to get it one-on-one.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, we invite you to go to our website. We'll click you over to their website. You can see all the dates and all the information. They even have meetings that you can go to. It's just a wonderful hobby, a wonderful collection to your indoor plants. Thanks so much.
Thank you.